Okay, hello everybody. I believe we are live here. So, as I also mentioned in the chat already, there's some massive internet problems over here in Japan. Um, I also had a stream 1 week ago. I was playing a teaching game against the winner of the Irish Go League online, and I played a teaching game with the winner and then reviewed that in the stream. That time, I believe it was mostly fine. The stream 1 week ago. But right now, with the same setting, for some reason, this week it's not turning out quite so well. Right now, it seems it's fine, but when we had the waiting screen on for like 15 minutes, there would be periods of like 10 seconds or 20 seconds where everything just freezes and the stream frames drop and nothing is happening. So if that happens again, it's possible that we'll unfortunately need to just stop this lecture. But for the time being, it seems to be working, so we'll see how far we can go. How's the chat? Are you hearing me? Is everything working fine right now? Can I get some input from there? I guess I'll put my glasses on as well. Are we live? Is it just me here? Okay, so at least 2 people are hearing me. Okay, 3 people. Perfect. Yeah. So, okay, for the time being, we can then start with today's topic. The topic was provided by Marcel, who is also here in the chat for the first 35 minutes or so, I believe. So, making life in the center of the board. I also had a few other lecture ideas, which I will most likely cover in a few weeks or a few months. But for now, this seemed interesting, and I don't think there's so many lectures that actually deal with this topic. 15 people, okay. Yeah, so I haven't seen so many lectures or book on this topic, so I thought it's interesting enough to spend a little bit of time on this. Making life in the center of the board. So basically we have a weak group. We have a weak group that has to live, and the group doesn't really have access to the sides of the board. Like if we think about eyes are actually easiest made inside a territory. And we all know that territory, it's easiest to make territory at the sides or in the corners of the board. And center is difficult because you need to surround it from 4 sides. In the corner, you just close it from 2 directions. On the side, you need to close from 3 directions. In the center, from 4 directions. But sometimes it's the case that we have no choice. Like our group is in the center, it cannot escape to the sides, and so we need to make do in the center. And that's basically the process of how to do that is basically the topic for this lecture. So I guess, I mean, we will look at some technical parts as well, but I thought it would be easier if we start from the way of thinking about the center. So for that, I'm going to be using a kind of classic example. I believe the board is empty right now. Yeah, classic example. Have you seen this before? Anybody in the chat? I believe this is the so-called shape game, as in we have this black position. Black has living stones on the first line everywhere on the board, and in this game, it's like regular Go, but white's objective is simply to live in the center, and black's objective is to kill everything. And if white lives, white wins. If black kills, then black wins. Easy enough, right? White starts, of course. So, how is the chat's impression about this? What do you think? Is it easy to live? Is it difficult to live? How does it look like? If you were playing this game as white, would you feel confident? How would you go about it, actually? That's also something to think about. You're back. Very low frame rate. Sound is okay. It seems like there was a drop around here just now. Okay, so let me repeat in that case. So assume you are playing this game as white. Would you find it easy? to make life here in the center? Do you feel it's difficult? How would you go about it? Okay, so we are already, with these comments, we're already getting a little bit further into the topic of the day as well. Yeah, questions are of course also fine. Looks good for black. It's impossible under 2 to 3 stones of strength advantage. Wait, so does that mean that if you're the living side and you're 2 to 3 stones stronger than the opponent, then you think it's impossible? Like you need to have like at least 3 stones of difference, huh? To live as white. Okay, I'm seeing a red box around here, but okay. Red box means that the bandwidth is getting smaller. Right now it's green box. Okay, but we can still keep going. Yeah. Yeah, so for the time being, this board is only the center. There are no sides. So to make a living group, you want to start from the middle because the middle has the most space to move around here, right? You need space to be able to form ice for your group. It's kind of easy to kill. So white would usually start from here. So I believe, okay, here we are red. Let's see what's going on. Full red. Okay, are we back now? There was a drop, but I believe we should be back here. At least it didn't go too far this time. Yeah, so this is the kind of problem we have here today. Red, now we're yellow. Nope, back to red. The first 5 minutes or so were very good. Now it's going worse. 5. Not looking too promising right now here. The audio stays stable, it's your camera that lags. I see. So basically when I'm touching the board, I just need to make sure that I do it when there's a green box. Okay, that's perfect. So I can just keep talking and be... Comments are so slow to appear on your end. Yeah, okay, well that's something that I need to deal with. Okay. But at least if it's the video that's a problem, that's something that I can play around. Yeah, so first off, what I wanted to do here was to check what happens if we just play this like normal Go, right? So if white goes here in the center, black wants to attack, black does something like this. Not sure if we call it an approach or a pincer or what, but so like this. So black's blocking the white stone from going towards the left. So in that case, there's less space for white on the left side, so white wants to go to the right side instead, right? So white plays something like the one space jump here, for example. Now if black wants to prevent white from going to the right as well, then black would play from this side. And for white to start making life for these stones, maybe white will do something like, I don't know, came around here, maybe black blocks that, then maybe we go in this direction as well. Okay, black blocks, then we do here as well, block this. But so basically, if white starts to get this kind of a group, then it already looks like we could probably make 2 eyes for it, right? We stab around a little bit, we stab around a little bit. Something like this, and it looks like we have more like... We might be able to get 3 eyes here instead of just 2, right? This would be an easy life. Look reasonable so far? So if we play in this ordinary way, then this looks like an easy task live. The problem is black will not play like this, right? I believe I heard it in the comments here as well. What was it? Hard if opponent only ever plays eye points. Are you still with me? Textbook example of cut theory, yeah. self-indulgent reading. Yeah, so it's more like when white plays this jump. And now the point here, okay, video is down, but I'm here anyway. Point here is that black has absolute thickness on this board. This absolute thickness means that, for instance, all the ladders on this board are going to work for black. And it's not only that, because black's weak stones can always escape to the side and they're instantly alive. It means that black doesn't really need to care for black's own well-being. Black basically has free hands to attack white on this board, which means that black doesn't need to play the normal reserved kinds of moves like this one or this one, which would make sense if black was not as strong on the outside. Like if the board was more empty. Complete freeze, but this command will only reach you in 30 seconds, so it doesn't matter. Is it a complete freeze as in no voice either? If my voice keeps going through, then I think it's fine, because I can watch it. But if the audio doesn't go either, then right now it should be working fine, but I'm not hearing anything from there. Turn off the voice is there all the time. Marshall had a complete freeze, Funshale had voice. Okay, but so it seems like the stream quality in that case is the problem. So maybe I will just... the camera, huh? Okay, I can put the camera off. Let's see what that does. Just a moment. Lecture, so I just... no, not this one. Video, put this off. And maybe also make this one wider. Okay, just a moment. I'll adjust things here. Thanks for your patience also. Yes. Demo board and OGS with audio is also an idea that we can do. But for the time being, I would prefer if we have this video remain here. Okay, so transition again. So now, well, it's not quite perfect, but it's almost there. So now there's just a larger chat, and there's no video whatsoever. So let's see how this does, right? Are you still hearing me? I think there might still be a problem in that I've put a top bandwidth of 3000 kilobytes here, which it's trying to push through. So it's basically just trying to do a high resolution version of this still image here. Symmetry. How much of a lag do we have here now? This sounds better. Okay, well, let's keep going and see how far we can get. Okay, yeah. So far the point was that so far the point here was that if black plays normally, just surrounding from all sides, then that's going to give white more space to form life in, right? And because black has this a total ultimate thickness all around, that enables black to play far more strongly. So instead of just surrounding, the moment white plays this jump here, for example, lag is 30 seconds of comments. Okay, that's something I will need to try to work with, basically. Yeah, but so just write your comments, write your questions, and update the Twitch page. Ah, I see. Okay, I updated just now. Can you try again? Or it's the viewer's problem, huh? But it does change also for me as well. It might make a difference for me as well, because now I saw this comment much quicker than I think the... Well, okay, I have no idea. Anyway, it couldn't hurt, I guess. Yeah, okay, so finally, so if white plays the jump here, black's going to do something like peep here, right? Answering basically real time. Okay, that's good, as far as this keeps working. So black peeps. White needs to make life here, so presumably white wants to connect around here, right? And okay, if we go with the normal, if we go with the normal shapes that you would play during your own game, you would do something more like this is black, just to surround, right? Because this way you would say that you're getting territory in the upper left corner and you're preventing white from going there. And okay, fine, white can jump here, but white can live and it's fine because you win on territory, right? Which is not the case because here we are going for the kill. So you don't care about territory in the upper left corner if the white group is dead. So you just keep removing its eyes. Play around here, play a pincer so white doesn't get to make any eyes in the L8 surrounding. How would white continue from here? White would turn here, I guess. Okay, we can save the one stone. Strictly speaking, we could sacrifice this one stone and it would still be enough to kill white because white would just get one eye by capturing. Not like white could capture because all the letters work for black as well, right? But we could do like this. White extends here. Okay, so we play a jump here. So white also cannot get eyes in the H12 area. Okay, white plays a honey. We can play an empty triangle because okay, it's fair to say that black doesn't care about shape because it's just killing white to win the game, right? So your shapes can be bad if it's enough to kill the opponent. Like there's no what if afterwards. White dies, it's game over. You don't need efficient shapes to form territory later, for example. It's more like chess, need to kill to win. Yeah, pretty much. So this is basically lesson one over here, which is that if one of the players has this kind of absolute thickness or power all around, it enables that player to play far more strongly than usual. Like, they don't have to be constrained by this logic of them needing to make connected shapes to reinforce their position. They can just directly go for the kill. Now let's have a look at a slightly different example. Well, it's similar though. So same thing still here. White to play. Can white live here? What do you think? Most likely on this board, black still has all the ladders, I think. I cannot think of a ladder that... Yeah, I think all the ladders still work for black here. So that part didn't change. And black still has stones in the first line. The stones cannot be cut, so black still all connected on the first line, but still it feels a little bit different, right? Still not? Okay, let's try then. So, doesn't seem much better. Okay, good thing I brought this up. So I play in the center here. So with the same logic, black will still play something like this, right? What actually changed? Okay. So I jump here, right? I guess we still say that black's going to play this kind of a peep here. We connect. And let's say black still plays the same kind of an attack here. Now then. Previously I played this solid turn over here, but let's say I play this Keima instead. So how would black play here? I set this up so that it's not very easy for black to cut here. This one is a direct net. And if we cut from this side, we are immediately giving white one eye. Wedging is harder to deal with. Well, wedging is also possible, but I would say it would lead to a similar kind of overall fight. So we can argue about which one is better, but I think the peep shouldn't be really that much worse. The peep with this move here is a nice combination. I just joined. What is with the black soul over? So we are talking about the principles of making life in the center. We had a different example where black had all of the stones on the first line. We had an example where black had all of the stones on the first line, and we just covered that it's impossible for white to live there. Black's way too strong. And now I have altered the example here. We still have blacks on the first line, but just half of the stones. And I'm trying to show that this is totally different from the example where black has all of the stones like this. That's what I'm going to argue. So like this. I just covered that black cannot easily cut this one. So I think maybe black would play something like this extension here to set up the cut next, right? Okay, I'm going to do something like attach here. This is simply to try to get more forcing moves against the two black stones. Black has to keep these stones alive. If they get captured, then that's immediately one eye for white, and the second eye is going to be easy. So white's basically trying to lean on the two stones to get more forcing moves here. Now, what would black do? Ideas? We could go for the cut. Do we go for the cut? We are trying to make a case that this is still totally easy for black, or at least the audience made it sound like this is similar to the previous example. So let's just say black goes for the brutal cut, right? It cannot be too bad. Like this. And we can always think about if we want to play an Atari first, but that might also help white. Let's just play it. And like this, so we're out. Okay. So I guess I'm going to turn here. The Atari looks nice. Empty triangle. I'm getting these responses a little bit slowly. But okay, it seems like the ideas are basically the same as what I was thinking about. So maybe it's fine. So I think normally black would probably extend here. I'm going to play some kind of a press over here to get more forcing moves. Black probably goes out like this. I'm maybe going to connect here. Black's probably also going to simply connect around here. So now my argument is that it would make a huge difference if the board looked like this instead. That's right. If it looks like this, I will agree that white's totally dead here. It doesn't. Sorry. It doesn't. It looks like this. I'm going to play some extension around here. And in a moment, I'm going to be using all of these sente peeps over here. Strictly speaking, they might not be sente, but if white gets to cut, then white can threaten to make eyes near the side. Okay, let's see how that works in practice. What does black do here? What does black do here? That's a good question. Well, black will play from the more open side, which is the left side. Maybe how deep do we want to go is a question. Okay, I'll wait for some suggestions here. I have no idea how black should try to keep attacking here. Also, I think in terms of this stream, I think it's good that I get you viewers here just to look at this situation and try to figure out what's going on. Try to get a feeling for the fact that actually This is not so easy for black, I hope. I'm getting L15, J16. J16 around there is also my impression. K4, K14? K14 looks a bit off. K14 will just get captured, right? J17, K16. Well, okay, let's go with J17. So like this. I'm going to play some shape like this here. But this is actually something that's not so different from the K16. Okay, let's say K16. I guess in that case I'm going to cover here. With this logic, black's going to extend here, I think. I'm going to play some extension like here. So this basically, this logic with O16 is that white's, I think in Japanese it's probably called, white is raising a flag, so to say. So when we want to make eye shape in the center, we try to make this kind of a box-like shape that tries to cover like, well, in this case, roughly these 4 intersections. Like we cannot exactly see the eye yet, but we can see that there might be an eye around there soon. Unless black does something drastic to remove it. So raising a flag to make eyes. So with the previous logic, black would be playing moves like poking here. Maybe poking here. Poking here might be too far. Okay, let's go for it. Here, pulls back. Hane is a center. Counter Hane maybe. I'm going to peep around here. Black's not going to cut this, I think. If black's not going to cut this, then black's going to play around here, I guess. I'm going to keep on cutting here because I'm going to get some delicious first, second line honey moves quickly in short order. Okay, but so it seems like the stream is fine now. So maybe the problem was just with the video. Here. I'm going to... Maybe I will use this kind of a nose attachment again to get some forcing moves. I remember somebody linking some YouTube videos in the Go forums of pros trying some of these games, trying to live. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Definitely. Empty triangle? Empty triangle means cover here. Probably black needs to get out from here, which seems like it could be an eye here already. This is very close to living already. If black plays Yathari, white's going to fight this Ko, right? White has all the Ko threats in this game, basically. Because white just needs to live, black has to kill everything. So black's the one who cannot fall back. Ko is always good for white in this game. Okay, but if we do this, one eye in Gote is still not alive. So I should try to find some way to show that the first line, I mean the second line peeps are a thing. Should I like... What happens if I just peep here? Or attach here, that looks interesting as well. Well, actually, if I do this and black does this, I'm going to fight with the Ko again. Black peeps. Black peeps again. That looks more like it. Okay, this Atari is center. Okay, let's just make the one eye because there's some eye potential around M15 already. I think we can argue that black has to play like this. And like this. I can connect here, but I can also do it later. So for the time being, something on the right side. So at least here, doesn't it feel like it would help black a lot if black had all of these stones? Most likely in that case, black wouldn't need to care anything about either of A and B. There's just no way for white to do anything against these stones. Without the first line stones, you have these Atari around here. Okay, so it's going to become an eye, so black needs to escape. You need to do this kind of thing. Same thing here, same thing here. Are you sure you're going to prevent this white from getting an eye here on the side? You're not, right? So this kind of thing is basically the difference that the only having half of those first line stones makes. Like at the time when we are still in the center, it doesn't feel so different because you can see the big number of. Okay, let's just go back there. You can see the big number of black stones waiting there on the first line. But when you start from creating the group in the center, you move it around, you keep it connected, you gradually get it towards the side. Then at around here, when we get to this point, white can actually start thinking of using these peeps or moves around them to aim on the weaknesses of the black position. And that makes a huge difference here for living between this and this. If there's not a single forcing move, then white basically has nothing to lean on here. It's extremely difficult for these stones to find space. In this case, when white goes here, black can even just throw a stone in between. Cut once, play the Atari, save this one. Black can do something ridiculous, like maybe save this stone and say that even if the K16 stone gets captured, it's still just a false eye, right? That's the kind of difference we are talking about here. If we don't have all of the stones, let's see this here, right? Here. Well, actually, in this case, white might not even want to connect here. Okay, but even if white did, I would think about playing something like this instead to try to live more towards the right. But just for the sake of argument, guess we say we did this, say we cut here. So instead of just simply capturing here, we would first of all jump over here, right? To set up one of these cutting points in the first line. And would black Atari here? Maybe. Okay, so we capture. There's an eye potential there, so... but if we do this now, white might be strong enough to almost catch these 3 stones. Not exactly. Okay, but it's a bit scary, so let's say black plays on that side instead. Here. So we give this one to white, because it's strictly speaking still not exactly an eye. How do we keep white in? Jump. Touch around here. Here. Like, white can already make one eye if he wants to, and it seems like there's so many black weaknesses around that it's pretty difficult to read this out for black, I would say. It might be possible, because white's play earlier wasn't optimal, but I think like even like this, it's still kind of a fair fight. Whereas, again, if the board looked like this, totally no forcing moves around, this feels impossible, right? I hope you get this difference in feeling here, just by the addition of these first line moves. Marcel still here? Can you agree to some degree at least? So this is about how to use peeps, forcing moves, and miai. That is a big part about living with weak groups, yes. There's always a big difference in that if you need to make your group live without getting any support from the surroundings, then it's actually very difficult to get even a single eye. And if you have weaknesses in the surroundings that you can use, like it's a bit turning it around, but namely speaking, we are defending here, but actually if you can pressure the opponent while you aim to live, then the living part is going to be a lot easier. Fun, simple to set up, and challenging way to train making life against someone of roughly the same strength. Yep, pretty much. Would you say that this thought experiment leads to unnatural shapes compared to actual play? Well, it's not exactly something that you would see in a real game, but there are fairly similar situations. I think we will see one or two also in the actual game examples here. I think for human purposes, if we want to play this shape game as an experiment, I would say it's better if we at least give white two moves in a row at the start. Like, for example, if we let... It's also difficult to say what exactly those two moves should be. But something like, for example, this might be a little bit more of a fair fight. I would actually argue that even if white gets two moves in a row over here, this is still extremely easy for black to kill. Well, maybe not extremely easy, but it's still easy. One space jump around Tengen is also possible, but one space jump around Tengen is going to invite this move and this move alone. So like this, cut. Okay, Fang Shave is making a point that I can talk about soon. But yeah, so I would slightly prefer this Keima shape. If black tries to cut this one, then that gives several possible forcing moves, like this, for example, which starts looking a little bit more like a living shape here. I recently played with 4/4 stones against 3 down player. Result was 1-1, but it still felt to me black was advantaged. Do you think? So if I'm understanding right, like this kind of a handicap? And then white starts. Is that the meaning of Fanshave? Like this. I've never... sorry, there's one more stone, right? I've never quite seen anything like this before. The white stones are pretty close to the corners of this board, so it feels like they might not be too useful here. Rather than this, I would give white... Yeah, so rather than this, I would give white 2 or 3 moves at the start. So we covered that basic... Living like this is still basically... 4 stones and black plays. No, that's impossible for sure. That's impossible. So this, and this, and black gets a play in the center. This almost feels worse to me for white than the one where white gets a play in the center, because those 4/4 stones are really not that useful, in my opinion. So I would start with yes, 2 to 3 free placement. My feeling is that if white gets 3 stones in a row, this should be able to live. That's my gut feeling. But I'm pretty sure if I play some top professional or against Katago with this one, I might actually still die. But this is more like a fair fight. 2 stones, and most likely it's still dead, going to die. Black can do like this, white jumps, we peep, white connects, we peep the eye again, and there's just not that much space all around. Okay, but let me see my lecture notes at this point. You're welcome. Yeah, okay, so actually we can now go to the first actual game example here. So for the time being, we got some... well, I hope you got some kind of gut feeling from this. If there's absolutely no weaknesses in the black position all around, it's... I would say it's impossible for white to live, just like that. And the reason was because black's not going to play this kind of normal, regular, influence-oriented play. If like this, white's just going to get more and more space. But because black's so strong around, black can basically... black doesn't need to pull his punches. He can just take the white eye shape out directly. So something more like, not even like this, but here. And here again. And empty triangle, nobody cares. And on the other hand, if there's a difference that black still has a similarly good position, but only half the stones on the first line. So although this might feel similar in that black's still super strong around here, as we saw in the example, it's finally going to be a lot harder for black to kill this white, because when the blade goes towards the side eventually, then as we saw, finally white's going to get some powerful first line peeps and so on near the side, which is going to make a difference. For example, with this one here. So if black has T13, T11 or not, makes a huge difference for these two stones. So basically, for the living side, how many weakness the attacker has that you can exploit makes a crucial difference here in the living. So then we have the first actual game example here. This is from the Japan Go Association Summer Camp. White was Takemiya in this game, black was a Finnish 3-dan. Some of you probably have seen this game, like from my newsletter or... Well, I don't think there's anybody from the camp here, but that could also be a possibility. So we have this situation that white has just extended in the center. There's a black group over there. And we can see that right now the black stones at... Okay, I'll mark it down. The black stones at A are right now in trouble. With the next move, white could capture them. So black has to do something about them. But also in the slightly further away future, black has to think about how exactly he's going to live with this group. Because white is extremely strong on the outside. It's not perfect thickness in the sense that white has cutting points like B and C. And there's like an actual gap here at the squares if black ever gets that far. And maybe also on the right side, there's going to be some possible white weakness around here. So it's not perfect thickness, but it's still really good. So now everybody who is watching this, please take some time here looking at this position, trying to get a feeling for how much in trouble black actually is. And after that, try to start thinking how you might maybe try to make this group live with what kind of moves. But first you need to get the impression of or some kind of gut feeling for actually how much in danger it is. And of course, right now there's also the pressing question of what exactly we will do about the white cut of A. We need to save the 3 stones. We need to keep the B stones captured, and we need to think about what exactly is the best shape for it. Any ideas? K9? Congratulations, you're 3-dan in that case. Finished 3-dan. Black needs M8 group to leave to stand a chance. Well, to be exactly, even if black lives, white's still going to win this game. But if this was our game, and maybe if the situation was a bit different, we could phrase this situation as black has to leave or the game is finished. Yes? I'd say we're in some trouble, okay? My gut feeling says that against Takemiya I would die. Fair, fair. Very much in danger. L9 Tiger. L9 Tiger seems like a move, yes. 0% to live against Takemiya, 60% against my level. Okay, so let's see. L9 Tiger. So, well, first move is easy, right? White wants to prevent this eye here. Black has to connect. And if we're white, and if we're basically hellbent on trying to kill this group, I think we're going to peep this eye here, most likely. So, first of all, of course, there's the question of if black can let this white stone connect out here, and if black can, for example, escape like this, or maybe get a second eye, this might be a peep. So because white has almost perfect thickness in the surroundings, this still basically lets white play these strong moves like this peep here, without caring too much about what if black starts cutting white back. Because white's going to live separately. White is stronger here in the center. So black stays connected. White plays some pressing move around here. Black tries to escape around here. White still keeps black disconnected. So most likely we can say that there's not going to be an eye around here. It's a bit of an open question, but it could get tricky, but I think we cannot rely on there being an eye here. Wasn't N11 useful for black at, for example, yes. N11 earlier at some stage, so most likely here. But also black has to be careful here. So, for example, white might think about just covering here. Well, actually, maybe this is not doing too much. We connect. And there's two cutting points. Do we play here first? So white's going to play all of these peeps here, then connect here. Now, technically, black could try to say that maybe white on the right side is not alive either, but actually... I'll scratch that. I think it's just alive. Black has to play this kind of a peep first as well. Then play here. But this is still alive, right? So white's a bit too strong all around. Does black Q8 do anything? Like this? Threatening the cut. Yeah, so white might just answer by connecting, but let's see if white resists. This way, right? So we would say black cuts here. I'm going to defend this way. Black can try to get an Antari here, but I think I'm going to just peep it. So again, the problem is that because white is so strong all around, white's not going to play the usual shape moves here, right? Well, actually white can just connect here, and I think it's still dead like this. So that was L9. The other idea was this jump over here, I think. This was the game move. So I think Takemiya clamped here to attack black. And I think, did black connect? So white could play through from here. And here we can again basically see that there's not going to be a second eye for black in this area. Now the way that I would like to think about this situation here is that moves like, from black's point of view, can I lower my estimate? I'm not sure I have 60%. Yeah, it's actually pretty tough over here. But so moves like black A and black B they're moves that I would call like, for this lecture I named them regular shape-making moves. Like they are extremely good, like they're very good shape moves that you play when your group is safe enough that you don't have to be in danger of getting captured. Like they're efficient, they develop the black shape, they develop it in an efficient way. You play something like this. Because usually speaking, in a regular situation where the black group is already alive, you don't want to go this far into the shape, right? You don't want to go this far because you give black a forcing move. You need to save a single stone that doesn't do anything if black is alive. You let black escape in the open, and when black eventually lives, because black's alive, right? You're basically just playing all of these dummy moves here in the center. You're letting black run through from here, which is not what you want to play when black is alive. When black is alive, you simply play the Atari for keeping pressure, and you do something like wall black off in center. You make black ensure that they have the two eyes, and then you're going to play a switch elsewhere. That's how you play when the black group is going to live, right? So this is also something the shape game teaches. Regular shape moves are not the best when trying to live or kill. Pretty much, yes. That's it's phrasing it in a different way, but that's also my one of the main messages that I created for this lecture. Like, I would maybe say that there's two ways of thinking or reading about the game. So there's so-called shape reading, and then there's Tsumego reading. So shape reading, which deals with moves like this one, for example, or this one, is about reading nice or finding nice and efficient moves that create shape for your group, with the premise that sooner or later one of the players is going to Tenuki first. Like, basically, this kind of shape reading that optimizes shape, it goes around the premise that sooner or later, or like, the players are fighting about who gets to play Tenuki first from this area. So you just want to get the best shape possible locally and maybe pressure the opponent. And if you do it efficiently enough, maybe you get Sente, or maybe at least you live it in a really, really nice way. That's what the shape reading is about. But shape reading doesn't work when the opponent is going to say that, no, your group is dead, no discussion, no topic, you don't get anything. Isn't the empty triangle connection a better practical move here? Empty triangle connection? This one? I'm not sure about this, because this means, I mean, the difference is about exchanging these two moves here. I think we say that this exchange is good for black, because L9 is slightly contributing to the black eye shape around here. Okay, thanks Marcel, and thanks for the examples also, and for giving the topic. Yeah, so here the example is actually going to help black, I think. Black clearly has more eye potential around M9 if he has a stone at L9. I've always thought that reading is an umbrella term for a plethora of different skills, like shape, intuition, memory, judgment, etc. Yeah, it might be that reading is not exactly the correct word here, but I'm talking about the kind of mindset that you use to find the moves that you want to play, whatever you call it. But so it's just that if your situation is good enough, like I would argue it was in this example, I would argue that you can keep on playing good normal shape moves like L17, for example, and it's going to be enough because the opponent has enough weaknesses in their position that you're going to live anyway. In that case, this way of playing is more efficient. But you cannot do this if the opponent has absolute thickness, like this, for example. Then the opponent can go crazy. They can go crazy and they can just, well, poke out your every single eye, so to say. And so for those situations, we need to get into a mindset that's more about Tsumego already. So if we see this position here, it's not our game in the scope of this lecture, so we had to use some time to figure out what's going on here, to get a gut feeling. If this was your game, I think it would be easier, because you also had to play the previous moves, so you would already have a kind of impression on how much in trouble black is here. But once we have that idea, then basically you need to switch gears. You need to start thinking that, okay, if the group is the group might be about to die, and we need to do something drastic to actually make sure it lives. And once we realize this, if we realize that we are really busy here, then I would argue that that opens a different set of possible moves, which are basically Tsumego leading moves. Now, it's a very big Tsumego here, but I will just show the move here. So I would argue that, okay, yes, here it comes. N6, yes. So this is also defending against the cutting point at A, right? By making sure that B stones are dead. With the difference that now we have a half eye waiting with C. So if the opponent was playing the normal shape game here, they would play something like this here, right? The white shape player would be saying that, haha, you need to live by playing p6, you're so pathetic, I'm going to win this anyway. Which might make sense if that was what the game was about. But we just basically established that black is almost dead here, which means that this game is about if black lives or not, right? And if we need to live, then we want to live no matter how pathetic, basically, this kind of life looks like, because it's still life, right? Okay, white got a nice move at L9, but we lived, which still achieved the main goal here, I would argue. And so from white's point of view, if white wants to keep on attacking, then white has to do it like this, right? Which I think will make it possible for black to live. What's the best shape here? Do we fix this? So we try to make a big eye here. For white to want to kill this means here. So black plays here. White has to prevent the second eye. White has to play in. We go like this. White has to prevent that eye. We go like here. Okay, white can force that. Now white has to go in this eye over here. Simply covering it isn't going to cut it. So like this. And white has to escape. I think if we get this far, then we can basically see that black's going to live or basically counterattack white in a very painful way, right? Fox slowdowns will get crazy and poke every single eye of a living group. Yep, that's Fox, all right. Or also, back in the example, white could also think about this move, in which case I think we play a Hane here. White's going to poke the eye, and I think we have a nice technique, for example, with cut here. White goes here, and then we just establish the eye. So white cannot play because of self-atari, right? Okay, but so going back to the point of this example, already code. No, it was just alive, but white couldn't play it. Already code. Yeah. So the point about this example was that we needed to establish what this situation is about. How weak is this black group? Can black live with ordinary moves, or is there an actual danger of white going batshit crazy because white's so strong all around, and then white will start poking and not caring about his own shape? So we need to establish the position. We need to figure out if this is about shape reading or if this is about Tubengo reading. If we know it's about Tubengo reading, then we don't need to reserve us to the simple, normal, good shape moves. So in that case, we are actually optimizing the ice only of the group, which makes moves like N6, which looks totally hideous in terms of shape, actually be efficient for the action of making ice for the black group. I hope that makes sense. So with that, are there any questions about this particular example here, or about the main point over here? We still have, I think we have at least two interesting samples that I would like to look at before we conclude the lecture here. Okay, but any questions so far? Not sure if 20 minutes is going to be enough, but we can go a little bit over time. I wonder what the lag here is right now. Seems like it might be quite a bit of lag actually, huh? Or otherwise my explanation is so good that people are just dumbfounded, cannot think of anything to say. Or I'm not making sense at all. I guess it's possible too. Anybody here? It's not too bad. I'm reading that right now, but it seems like there's a bit long lag actually. Mm. So is the status alive then? Now we cannot say that. Audio is fine. Okay. We clearly cannot say it's alive because right now if white plays here, black's going to be captured. So if black plays here, then I think black's alive. So right now it's more like a Tsumego of black to play and live, I would argue. Okay, but it seems like if that's the only question, then we can go forward. Okay, so this is example 2. Chaos will actually remember this one. I hope at least. So here we have a situation from an NGD League game. I think Chaos was black in this game? Maybe. Wait, no, Chaos was white in this game. Okay, but so we have a situation here. There's a kind of a white framework on the upper side. There's a black group inside. And again, the point here is that we want to first look at the board and try to get a gut feeling for exactly how strong or weak this black group is. And once we get some kind of an idea, then we want to start thinking about how exactly black should play in this area. Like, can black continue with regular shape reading here? Does black need to go for Tsumego? What kind of moves are good for it? F2 is very mysterious. I'm guessing P2 maybe. P2 comes from a Joseki in the lower right corner. Yeah, but please have a look at this board and try to figure out how strong or weak the black group is and how you would deal with it. Maybe also give some move ideas if you think of something. There's at least one proverb we can use here quickly. Yeah, P2. Definitely P2. So I guess if we were to use shape reading here, or shape thinking maybe, should we call it shape thinking? Anyway, then the point should be that we should try to get as much space as possible around the black group. Like we should try to make the black group bigger so that it will basically end up creating two eyes kind of naturally. That's what we would do with shape thinking. So in that case, basically the direction would be to go down towards the center and the lower side if possible. And since we are talking about the shape thinking, we want to do it with a good shape moves, basically. If it's looking scary, if it looks like if we play some kind of a jump that white's going to come peeping and poking every single eye, then it might be that we need to do something more practical here to start forming eye shape quickly. Also, I think I was in my original plan I was supposed to mention this earlier, but as a general way of getting a kind of quick impression about how strong your group is, you can basically just ask yourself if you can pass once. If you can pass once and the opponent can easily kill you, then your group is weak. If you pass once and the opponent might be able to kill you, but you're not sure, then at least you're probably not in huge danger right now. Because even by passing, you would get some kind of chance at getting to form life or not. And you have one extra move in addition. So in that case, you should probably be able to cut yourself a little bit slack. Like at least you don't need to go for ice immediately, most likely. If you can pass once and you're easily alive even then, or like you cannot see a way what could possibly capture you, then actually, in that case, your group is not weak, I would say. if you can pass twice, then your group is strong and you don't need to even think about strengthening it. So can you pass? Can you pass twice? If you pass, what exactly is going on? And those kinds of questions can, well, at least for me, it feels like if I make myself those questions, it gives me a good idea fairly quickly about what's going on. So with that kind of thinking, in this example, I would argue that if white gets to play a jump around here, well, it's not clearly dead, but it looks really uncomfortable, right? Like regular eye making move like this one will get poked. Attachment might be interesting. Attachment might be if white wants to keep attacking, then maybe extend here. This might be some black diagonal like this to try to keep connected and also make some eye shape. Diagonal is usually good for eyes. White's going to peep. Black's going to play here. Technically, white can remove this eye here, but maybe white's going to just play from the outside. Black's going to wriggle his way around here. It feels like this might be a kind of 50-50 situation. Like, it's not obviously going to capture, but I would also be feeling the pressure as black. So in that case, maybe the group is not super weak, maybe we are not desperate yet, but we definitely also need to be strengthening it, right? So then we probably do... So if we're not desperate, it means we can play regular, normal, good shape moves, usually, which would probably mean something like this one space jump here. So if white doesn't respond, we play diagonal here, we jump out, we are going to get out into the center, right? So white has to keep on surrounding black with something like this. Most likely still we cannot really imagine a pass here, because this kind of Kema would again be removing black space here for eyes. So then we can think about, well, regular shape move would be a Kema, which might invite white to do some kind of peeps like this. And then we need to reassess the situation again. But I think this group is going to leave already. The white two stones on the right, for example, are not too strong. So it can be a little bit difficult for white to go crazy here. Like this, for example. There might be this one, threaten connection. Get a net around here, capture the two stones. So this would get a little bit out of control for white. If like this, then looks like black at least has one eye already. Maybe he doesn't play this immediately either. Maybe he tries to get some more space in the center. And for white to keep killing this group is, well, possible to try, but doesn't feel all too promising, I would say. But okay, if it looks scary, then you could also just think about starting to form eyes here. Like, again, raising a flag, basically, in this area. This. Or if you think your situation is a bit more desperate, you can also lean on the white stones. So attach. Play this bulge over here. Atari, Atari. Something like hanging connection would be a normal shape, for example. So like this, I think we can pretty quickly say that the black's going to get some kind of eye shape here in the center. Shouldn't be too much in danger. Of course, the more we play these straightforward shape-making living moves, it means the more we are paying on the outside, because we are helping white get these outer shapes. So as much as possible, we want to avoid having to play these forcing moves. But the weaker the group is, the more likely it is that we just need to do this. So that's basically the more difficult part of living. It's like you actually need to figure out how much your group is in trouble, how much you need to pay in terms of these forcing moves to make yourself live. And that a lot of the thinking work, I think, goes in here, basically. Okay, this was a little bit quick, but let's go for the third example as well. So at least see something. So this is from my professional game over here. getting some red square around here. Are you hearing me? Okay, well, regardless of if you're hearing me or not, please look at the board here again. And, well, I guess this time we don't exactly need to see if white is in trouble in the center or not. I think this time it's pretty obvious, right? Also, basically the center here is big enough that we can, for example, say that if black gets to turn all of the center into territory with a move like this, if we had time to count the score, we would figure out that black has more than enough territory like this. I think black was 20 or 30 points ahead if this happens. I was black in this game, yes. So here we have a kind of a, let's call this a tough example. White to play in the center. White has the 3 stones here. If black gets all of the center, it's too much. So we need to live with a group here in the center to win this game. So how would you go about that? This time, I guess we could say that this problem is a little bit less about judgment, a little bit more about technique, but I think that's also good to have as an example. So this one is basically going to be about how exactly white is going to go about trying to form eye shape in the center. Of course, this might not be a perfect example in the sense that in the game also white actually just failed. White died in the center. And as far as Katago was concerned, white cannot live in the center. So strictly speaking, this is kind of an impossible problem. But that doesn't change the fact that if this kind of situation happened in your game, or a similar situation happened in your game, if you were white, you would still be in the position that you need to do something about this black center. And okay, even if we say that by optimal play, you shouldn't live, that doesn't change the fact that your opponent is going to make mistakes. So even then, if you can make the situation complicated in the center, that can very well win this game for you. You need to keep playing efficiently and wait for the opponent's mistake and then pounce on them, basically. Can you go with like h8? So a reduction. About m10 cut. Could try k14. Okay, nice one. That's k14 is a professional 2-down move in that case. That's what the opponent played. And yep, this position is very much about the cutting point at A. A little bit similarly to the whole board problem we had earlier. So we had the shape game with all of the black stones on the first line, or just half the stones on the first line. A little bit similarly to this, in this example, it makes an enormous difference if black has just one extra move here at L10. So like there's not a single cutting point for white to be aiming at. I would say that if we had this situation, then white shouldn't even try to live in the center. It's just a flat out impossible. So in this case, we go reducing from the sides, maybe like this, maybe connect here, and then we hope it's enough. And if not, well, the mistake was earlier in that case. But the fact that black doesn't have that cutting point fixed, the cutting point is there, that's a key factor about this position. So we need to make use of the cut somehow. Hoping to make some Aji work or make 2 eyes. Yeah, pretty much. Start at K11. Well, that's also a 2p move. So what happened in the game was actually that white first played a leading move here. Black responded. And then white played here also. So maybe either the audience is very strong, which is possible, or I guess maybe it's also possible that because we have covered some similar kinds of examples, then maybe these moves right now in your mindset make more sense. In which case, good going, and please keep thinking like this in the following as well. So basically, first of all, there's the attachment of A, which is basically just checking how exactly black will respond. Black has a weakness nearby, so black's not too interested in fighting back with something like this. Black's position here is not perfect. There's weaknesses. So if this time black tries to go for this crazy eye-poking way of playing, that's most likely going to backfire somehow. Like, for example, if black connects here, then I think white already has a ladder she can aim for. White technically has the ladder already. Okay, black has a local ladder breaker here. Maybe it's possible. Wait, is this a? It's a breaker. Well, technically, white can think about trading already, right? For the sake of argument. So there's a big swing in the lower left corner, but also the black center huge framework turned into white territory, which seems like it might be a fair deal, actually. So from the attacker's point of view here, the fact that white's trying to lean on the black shapes, on the other hand, means that for black as the attacker, it's actually helpful to just make the shapes as solid as possible, to reduce the number of forcing moves that white can use for a living. So then here, white's setting up the cut. The cut still directly wouldn't work, right? This, well, black can just go through. So not yet. White sets it up, gets black to defend, and that starts looking more like a situation where white can try to, again, raise the flag here in the center with something like this, right? Which is basically what we have been also talking about in this lecture so far. Okay, so let's just see a little bit more. Black has almost perfect thickness here now. So black played a little bit slowly with A and B. You might feel like black didn't play optimally with this because black was reserving his power. But on the other hand, now black has no weaknesses, and that opens black up for possibilities like just poking up the eyes, right? Like this. Okay, then it wasn't so clear what black should do, so I extended or drew back the stone, again with the idea of reducing the number of white's forcing moves in this area. White pushed, jump. I think white probably played this honey moves around here. No, not yet. Yes, she did. I got a stone here. Here. No, this feels a bit wrong. Sorry, the move order isn't exactly right. Maybe white played this one immediately anyway. So a similar kind of game as I also showed in the shape game. And technically black could think about trying to cut this shape directly, but that's going to give white nice shape moves like this, for example. Black wedges, this. We find that it's not so easy for black to cut because of the weakness of the two stones above, right? So again, what I do is I still extend. I set up the cutting point also while strengthening the weakest black stones in the area. Should black f5 earlier? I think it's still fine. Black is playing in a way that black at least gets the upper side territory, maybe also some territory in the left side center. I was basically always going with the assumption that if I get f5, if I get to just capture the four white stones, it's going to be enough for me to win this game. So I wasn't in too much of a hurry to play it. But that's because I had considered the possibility, right? If you're not sure if it'll be enough, then you should play it sooner rather than later. Just to be sure, right? Then I think it was something like this, this, this. Now I'm starting to forget the exacts, but should I check? Maybe I can check quickly. I think the audience might also be interested in how this continued here. Aneko. Okay, my iPad is acting up. Just a moment. When did I play this game? It was this year in... It's been some time already, so that's how I forget, I guess. Ah, here we are. Yeah, okay, this move order so far is correct. Okay, so white made one eye here. I simply reinforced. And of course, white now has the cutting point problem around here, so white has to connect somehow. But simply, for example, doing this kind of a thing, letting black jump here, go out, and then having to face this black forcing moves here is not really going to make it possible to make ice in this area. So still how white goes about this is to try to get more forcing moves against black. So it's still this kind of an attachment here in the end. But, well, black's going to jump. It's fairly similar in the end, though. Jump out. And then black basically unleashes this one. Capture. Peep. Jump. Poke through. So here we still see this general principle of white not just trying to make ice, but actually trying to compromise the black shapes around, right? If you need to live without having anything on the opponent, you cannot weaken you cannot attack their shapes, you cannot aim at their weak stones. Living is extremely difficult, as we saw. But if you can create weaknesses in the surrounding shapes, then it's a totally different matter. Which is what we've been talking about for the whole lecture, right? So attachments, trying to get some forcing moves and trying to twist that around into an eye shape. Here. So here finally white does get it. Actually, maybe could I still have gone for the kill? Strictly speaking, I could maybe have thought about... Oh, I could play the Atari here. No, Atari doesn't work because in that case, there's this problem here. This is white setup. This one, let's hear some issues. Maybe this would be enough to kill white, which is what black might do if that was needed to win the game. But here I basically just chose to trade. It's like this, Atari here, and like this to force white to capture, and black gets everything else. So that was how the actual game finally turned out here. So most likely the black position in the center to begin with, most likely this was strong enough to just kill white outright. But in the game I took a little bit more flexible course with the f5 forcing moves. But well, even if the white attempt here turned out not to work, I hope at least the general process of how white went about trying to form the living shape is educational. Because in general, white did the right kinds of things here. Lean on the opponent, aim for the weakness, raise a flag, and then play attachments like, well, for example, this one here to try to get more and more support around the area. It is in general exactly how it should be done. So this part I hope is educational about this. Okay, we went a little bit over time here. So we need to be wrapping up gradually here. But do you have any last questions about the topic in general or about this particular example? So if we just wrap up the main message of this lecture. So there's first the shape thinking and the Tsumego thinking, or we can call it shape reading and Tsumego reading. But anyway, the two different mindsets of thinking about moves. So if you have a weak group in the center, well, it could technically also be on the side, but today we were looking at center groups in particular. So if you get in this kind of a situation, first you need to figure out how much in trouble you exactly are. So for example, for that, you can use the passing example. If you pass, are you clearly going to die, or are you maybe going to die? That's already a big difference in how much in danger you actually are. If you're clearly going to die, then the group is weak. If you might be, if you might die, then okay, the group might be weak, but at least it's not super weak. So you probably have some leeway about how exactly you go about making it live. If you can pass once and you're pretty sure the opponent cannot kill you, then actually the group is not really weak in that case, which again should open up more options. But so the stronger the group is, the more you can continue playing the regular good shape, usual one space jumps and whatever. And actually, in that case, that's going to be more efficient because then you don't help the opponent get stronger shape around. But if the group is in big danger, if it's about to die, then that's strictly not about shape anymore. Then it's about life or death, yes or no, 1 or 0. You need to make the group live if you figure out that that's what you need to do, right? Of course, there are situations where you can sacrifice a group, but we are talking with the premise that you need to make the group live. So then you need to do it no matter how you do it, right? You just need to accomplish. So that should, on the one hand, that should streamline your thinking, and on the other hand, it should hopefully open your eyes more to moves such as N6, which is shape-wise not efficient. It doesn't develop nicely into the center. It doesn't affect the rest of the board so much, but it's very good in securing eye shape for the group, period. So in a sense, the action that you need to do is different. You need to get eyes. You don't need to affect the board optimally. So that's more about Tsumego in that case. And how much you need to rely on moves like this depends completely on how desperate you assess the situation to be, right? So first of all, you need to have this idea of how much in danger you are, how far you need to go into making these eye-creating moves. Was there something else? I think actually that was... Yeah, I think that was actually it. That was a good summary. Okay, so any questions remaining about today's content or about the last example? Let me put that again. Yeah, here. Questions or comments? If not, then we're about to finish here. While you're thinking of comments and so on, I'll just put the usual link here. nordicgodojo.eu. Some free content, past lectures and so on, visible over there. And of course, there's the online league, which is still running as usual. You can also find more details about that on the website. There's the online league link on the upper side there. So 2-month participation is 70 euros. You get at least 4 games reviewed. And of course, then your games might also be used for lectures like this, and you get to join the Discord channel, which is very lively. We have active Go students over there as well. And next lecture like this is in 2 weeks. It's on October 22 at the usual time. I don't know who exactly is going to be holding it yet. It might be Oscar again. Or if Oscar is unavailable, it might also be me again. I might do that lecture about what Go is really about, finally. Series of like 3 lectures, most likely. Thank you. Thanks for the nice comments. Okay, so it seems like there's not going to be questions around here, so let's wrap up today's lecture with this. Thanks for watching and see you around. Sorry also for the trouble with the stream quality. Must be some internet problem here in Japan. Let's hope this doesn't continue in the future. Okay, I'm off. Thanks.